Alex, Kylie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to the KIRIO House podcast. Thank you guys for coming in. So we brought you in. Thank you, by the way, for being so flexible and just coming in like at the drop of a hat. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, it's no problem.
I wanted to bring you guys on because you have a super interesting story, and this is a little unorthodox because we're actually in the middle of helping you buy a property, but we've hit quite a few stumbling blocks along the way, and you've got kind of an interesting story with that. And so I thought it'd be cool to bring you guys on and chat with you a little bit and kind of learn a little bit more about who you guys are, and maybe we can tell some people about sort of the roadblocks that we hit trying to get you guys a place, and how we overcame that, and what hopefully is now the direction that we're headed in.
Hopefully.
So yeah. So but I want to start with you guys. So I know you're not native Oklahomans.
No, we're
So
not.
where are you guys from originally?
Colorado.
Colorado.
Yep.
Okay.
The beautiful kind of, I don't know, what's the cursing like on this podcast?
Oh, it's well, it depends. If you feel like you want to, you can just, fucking throw the windows or the rules out the window.
It's the beautiful shithole of Grand Junction is where we're from.
I've never been to Grand Junction. Is it bad?
It's not terrible, but there is some it's kind of gone downhill the last few years.
It depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's like nice parts and then not nice parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, well, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because you were in the military, Alex. And so is that what took you guys out of Grand Junction, or?
Originally, I was stationed in Yuma, Arizona, and I drug her out from Grand Junction to come stay with me there. And that's when we got married.
In the middle of the desert.
Yeah, middle of nowhere. I've never even heard of Yuma. I didn't know there was a Marine Corps base there.
Yeah. What do they do in Yuma? Like, what are the Marines preparing for in Yuma?
Yuma is, so it's a Marine Corps air station. And I'm pretty sure it was originally Air Force Base.
Okay.
And the Marines kind of came in and took over this whole kind of just small aircraft base that they had going on there. And pretty much everything to do there was just, you were either supporting or working for the airfield there. Okay.
Gotcha. So that was definitely like the main source of employment would be the military base.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you dragged Kylie out of Grand Junction, Colorado to Yuma, freaking Arizona.
Yeah.
Because you were bored and lonely. No, just kidding.
Well, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah, there's nothing to do there.
So how long are you out there before you drug Kylie out?
I got there August of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I drug her out there.
I got there January 2019.
Was it January?
Mm-hmm. Because
January
I went back with him after Christmas, after he asked me to marry him.
Oh, you asked her over Christmas break?
I asked her Christmas Eve.
Oh my God. Congratulations. That's so cool. Were you trying to ruin Christmas for everyone else?
Yeah. That was pretty much the only reason.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So how long have you guys been dating at that point?
Not that long.
It was
really?
a year and like a month.
Something like that. Yeah.
And you guys just felt like it was ready, or it was time.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he did. I mean,
yeah.
It was kind of him that started.
Well, that's good. Most of the time it's opposite. And it's like the woman's like knocking every couple weeks, like, "Hey, did you know I want to get married?" No, that's cool. So what? So Grand Junction, you would define as like a pretty shithole.
Yeah.
Okay.
More or less.
Yeah, because you're in a valley, so you got the nice book cliffs and then mountainous area, and then you just go into the valley, into town, and then certain areas it's just like, oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I've never been to Grand Junction, but it makes me think of the areas outside of Red River, New Mexico. there's these big like valleys and prairies and rolling hills and everything, big grasslands and horse ranches with like, you know, dozens of acres on them and everything. But then like next to this beautiful like $700,000-800,000 horse ranch will be this, you know, like single wide with the walls falling off and everything.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's pretty close, actually.
kind of. Instead of like horse farms, it's vineyards.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of vineyards
Yeah.
and
Okay.
peach farms.
Really?
Yeah.
So are they like known for their wine?
They're known for the peaches, honestly.
Okay.
Palisade peaches, definitely a big staple there.
Oh my God. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When we lived in the Panhandle, we used to have someone that would bring, like, they'd fill the pickup bed full of these boxes of peaches and bring them down from Colorado.
And they're huge.
Yeah, and
They're
they're
so
like the
good.
juiciest, most
Yeah.
delicious peaches
Yep.
They're
you've ever
amazing.
had.
They're
Yep.
good.
That's cool. Okay.
So that's the general vicinity of where we're from.
Okay.
So
Very cool. And so what got you from Yuma, Arizona out here? Like what happened in between that?
We had visited Oklahoma once, and it was more down towards Ardmore.
It was in Ardmore.
Ardmore?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
we had some friends that lived down there, and they invited us for their wedding.
Okay.
And so we flew out here, or to Ardmore, and I mean, we loved how it looked down there.
Yeah, because we came when it was still really green and nice out.
Yeah.
And so we were like, this is really nice. And then, like, when it came to time figuring out where we were going, it was like, yeah, Oklahoma's a good choice because it's a happy medium because Colorado's gotten really expensive. And it's just either not worth it or just way too much money.
Yeah. Had you guys looked at buying in Colorado?
Briefly,
Yeah.
here and there.
Yeah, a little bit. It was kind of hard to even look because the prices were just not what we could do.
Really? And was it just that everything you were looking at was like in the, you know, 300s, or was it just like what did you see with the real estate there?
Either they were trailers that were marked up that were not worth it, or
Okay.
it were really nice houses just for way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has been your experience since you've been shopping in Oklahoma for a house? Because I know we still, especially in Logan County, you'll still see, you know, double wides and stuff, and
Mhm.
but I guess you don't see as many.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely more houses, like actual houses on the market here rather than in Colorado. So
Yeah.
that was the biggest difference because majority of it are double wides, single wides, and things of that kind. The ones here are way nicer than the ones that we would see on the market back in Colorado where we were trying to look. So just the main thing is like actual houses
Yeah.
on the market.
Yeah, actual inventory.
Yeah.
Well, so before we get to telling your story, I want to back up a little bit. I want to stay with this. So you're in the Marine Corps. You're in Yuma, Arizona. What were you doing out there?
I was Marine Wing Sports Squadron, so we were in support of just airfields, aircraft,
Okay.
and I was technically stationed. Our squadron was 7 miles away from the actual base, where I fixed the trucks and the rigs and the wreckers and all of them to transport materials, transport fuel for
Okay.
the aircraft.
Were you pretty handy before you got in the Marine Corps, or did they teach you everything once you got in?
I did some courses, some college courses for basic just gas engine maintenance. So I didn't know a whole lot, but over the years in the Marine Corps, I feel like I got pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah, just picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you that personality type where it's like you learn by being hands-on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's me too. That's me too. So what were you doing while you guys were in Yuma? Were you working or anything, or?
The first few months, no, because it was actually really hard to get a job there. And previous to leaving Colorado, I was working at Chuck E. Cheese, actually, because it was still, fresh out of high school
Okay.
and things of that kind. Trying to get established pretty much in life. And then it was just so hard to find a job that I walked back into Chuck E. Cheese and I was like, hey, I have the experience. Can I get hired? And I did. And I ended up staying there for the whole time that we were in Yuma.
Yeah.
And then when I got here, I spent a couple months looking and then found the job that I have now.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Did working at Chuck E. Cheese make you want to never have kids?
No. No. Actually, it was never the kids that were the issues. It was the parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What were they, snotty or?
They could be. And then if, like, you get those certain people in there that think they're better than you and something goes wrong, they just lose it. And you're like, can you just go away? That wasn't my fault. We literally can't control that.
Please excuse yourself from this facility.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Dang. So how long have you been in Oklahoma now?
So we got here, I think it was
the end of June.
Yeah, literally the very end
Of 21?
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are like new Oklahomans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Super sweet. So you moved to Oklahoma, you sign I'm guessing a 12-month lease on an apartment. And did you guys know that you were going to buy something right away when you moved out? Or was that the plan all along?
It was the plan.
More or less, yeah.
Because we knew we didn't want to stay in the apartment for more than a year.
Yeah.
We were kind of just hoping that it would just kind of let us have a place to stay until we found somewhere that we liked
Figured
and
it
would
out.
purchase. Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of spurred the movement to try and get into something now?
Just the fact that we didn't want to have to rent anymore.
Yeah.
It was just getting so old.
Yeah. And we found out that our apartment complex wants 60 days notice. So that kind of pushed us in there.
Yeah.
Just a wee bit faster than we would have originally planned to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've been hearing so many horror stories about apartment complexes and houses that people are renting where rent's going up, 20% this year. And I mean, it's wild. And granted, like prices are going up and everything, but I think there's some landlords out there that are just, especially like on these apartment complexes, they're just doing it because they can.
Yeah. Well, and we had to move into something sight unseen, which did not help because these apartments were not worth it.
Really?
Unfortunately, like with this weather going on right now, literal condensation inside of our windows.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and then like ice would form or is forming
on the inside of the windows?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Causing mold. So,
oh my god.
Melts, gets moldy all around the window.
Yeah. So we're
great.
Pretty
Well, I'm
frustrated.
sure the apartment complex, maintenance supervisor is just out every day doing everything that he can to help you guys mitigate all of these problems. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no,
definitely.
what they told us was it's just condensation because outside is cold and inside is warm.
Oh yeah. And the ice forming on the inside of my windows is completely normal too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Definitely. I've seen that all the time.
Yeah. If you don't let it sit there, it won't cause mold. No. But it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do with the ice and water anyways?
Yeah.
It's not going to stop.
So when you guys started your house hunt, how did this all start?
Randomly getting on Zillow and Realtor all the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
And just looking and seeing what there was. And if there wasn't anything, we'd stop for a couple weeks and then hop back on.
Yeah. So you weren't like on a mission, I'm going to find a place. You're just kind of casually looking, seeing what was there.
Yeah, it definitely started out casually.
We started looking back in Yuma, honestly.
Yeah, because we're trying to see what it looked like out here and if it was even going to be worth moving out here. If we were actually going to have any real options, especially for what we were trying to spend. Because we don't have money bags, but I mean, we can still spend a decent amount on a house.
Yeah.
And the housing market was great before we got here.
Yeah, it was way better.
When we first started looking.
June of 21. Yeah. Well, you know what? It was still pretty chaotic. It was pretty wild. I think it really ramped up here around April, May of 20. And it was pretty relentless. There was a weird period over this last summer where it like died down a little bit for like a couple weeks, but then all of a sudden everyone was back out. I think this was around 4th of July actually. And it sort of dipped, and then by the middle to end of July, it was like like game on.
I think we had popped on and actually looked around that time period just to see what it was looking like now that we were out here, and I definitely remember there were like a lot on the market at that
There
point.
was a lot.
There was so much.
Yeah. But now the problem that we're having is like there's nothing there.
There's not a lot
There's
at
really,
all.
it's either nothing for us or just way too expensive.
Yeah.
Or just not even worth it. Too small.
Yeah. Well, but you guys are kind of unique buyers because you aren't like, you're not super picky, and you seem to be open to like unique or quirky, you know, homes and properties and everything. And so that was kind of the first property that we were looking at was going to be interesting. That was going to be like a barn dominium type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been really fun to do, but that obviously did not work out.
It did not work out. They're gonna like cringe for you guys on this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But so that barn dominium, this was actually I will just tell them what it was. So this was almost a 4-acre property that was sort of like southeast of Guthrie or just north of Luther. And it was in a really cool community because it originally, like 20 years ago when they were planning this thing out, it was going to be an equine community with like luxury horse properties and luxury horse barns and things like that. And the idea was that, you know, with the reservoir right there, it would be gated, controlled access, beautiful properties. And I think the demand wasn't there initially when they, you know, were developing this. So you've got some beautiful houses out there, but there's only like 8.
Yeah.
And then there's some lots. And so you guys found this one lot that was almost 4 acres and had a 40 by 42 shop on it. And it had, you know, small living quarters. How big would you say that was? Like,
oh, I don't even know. And with how like the awkward setup it was kind of hard to tell what it would have even been.
I think it probably ran like, I would say 30 feet by like 10.
Something like that.
I don't even know if it was that much.
No?
It was so small.
It was small. And it was, I don't know if the guy was originally setting it up as like a living quarters or as an office or what, but it was just such a unique setup. And so what was your plan with that? Like what was your hopes?
Well, she definitely wanted to knock that wall down.
Yeah.
Immediately was just the first response
I
was
still want to,
knock
honestly.
the wall down.
You just want to see the wall knocked down.
I really do. I wish I could like just find out who's gonna buy that and just keep an eye and be like, hey, can I come and help you take this stupid wall down?
I don't know.
'Cause it
Alex,
made no
she doesn't have a
sense.
history of like B&E, does she?
I don't know.
know.
I'm not sure.
No, I mean, I think we had a lot of conversations about what you guys wanted to do to that place, and I thought it was going to be a kick-ass barn dominium because you were talking about knocking down that wall where the little living quarters is, and pretty much making the whole shop your house.
Yeah.
Which would have been badass.
It would have been so cool.
Yeah. And so it had roll-up doors on both sides, and we had talked about scrapping the roll-up doors and really just finishing out the interior, doing concrete floors, adding your kitchen. And this place, I guess we could just disclose everything. Like it was pretty badass. Had the geothermal heat and air set up already plumbed. You were on your own well, your own septic. It would have been, I hope I'm not like making you guys
No.
I kind of do.
I mean, does it suck that we didn't get it? Yeah, but I mean, we found a pretty cool place, so I think it's okay.
Yeah. So the way this went down kind of sucked though, because this is a seller's market. It's tough to create an offer that looks very compelling for a seller, especially when the seller has it in their mind that they're going to get a cash offer for over asking and, you know, all this stuff. And in this case, Alex, we're going to use your VA loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we found something super interesting called a VA construction loan, which would have allowed us to go in and basically you would purchase the property. get it appraised for like an after repair value, and then you would get a construction loan for the difference so that you could finish out this place and make it what you wanted.
Yep.
And so you submitted, I think, a fair offer. We knew their property or what they were selling it for was over market, and you know, it had been on the market for a while, and we were in a unique position where we had already seen an appraisal, so we knew what the property appraised for, and still offered over that. And then what happened?
They didn't want to move.
Well, no. That was, oh gosh, that was even the different one. So on the barn dominium, I think we submitted the offer on like a Sunday.
We submitted it, and then
We heard nothing.
we didn't hear anything for
Nothing.
days.
And nothing. And
Yeah.
nothing again. Yeah.
It might have been a full 5 days.
Or close to.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Because I know the deadline that we put on the contract like came and went, and they gave no shits about
No.
that.
No,
No.
not really.
And then we like had to nudge them like real hard, be like, hey, you know what's going on? They're like, oh yeah, no, it's not gonna work. It's like you could have said that 5 days ago.
Or like before we went out twice with, you know, a contractor and
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Got our hopes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Already started making plans for the place. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that like a real disappointment for you guys when they came back and said no deal.
I mean, yeah, but it wasn't too bad because we might have dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Like it did need some work, and the longer we looked at it, the more it seemed like it needed work.
Yeah. Well, it would have. I mean, you would have had
Like a
quite the
lot.
project on your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got excited because right after we found out that was a no-go, you found a lot in the same neighborhood.
Literally a
properties
hop,
down,
skip, and a
something
jump
like that.
away from
Yeah,
it.
a literal hop, skip, and jump. And it had been on the market. It literally came on that night. And so we went out and looked at it. And that seemed like a cool property. You know, 2.5 acres. It was still in the same area. And I remember we walked through and kind of explored that broken down RV that was for some reason just sitting out there,
Yeah.
which was random. And I know you guys kind of got excited about that too. And it was a good price, but it was another position where the seller was looking for a cash deal. And I think that's because they knew it wasn't going to appraise for what they were selling it for. And so they wanted to make sure that someone was either covering the appraisal gap or paying cash and didn't give a shit about the appraisal. So that was a womp womp.
Did we ever hear what was going on with that, like the numbers and everything that Kent was talking about?
No. And actually so he got in an accident.
Oh,
And yeah,
Oh my God.
well, I'll just tell you, I found out one night that he had a stroke.
Oh no.
And yeah, it like came out of nowhere. His son actually messaged me and told me, and it was pretty severe. He's actually still in the hospital. So I've been kind of running around helping keep up on his property because they just bought a place, and with the snow and the ice and everything, wanted to make sure that he didn't have pipes bursting and all that. But yeah, I hadn't told you that. So
Man,
that
that's
was
crazy.
it was wild. It was a big surprise because we weren't expecting it at all.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was actually able to meet him, and he
Yeah.
does not look like that would have had happened.
No.
No.
It was shocking. So I hope I talked to his wife yesterday, and he was, last I heard, he was kind of in good spirits,
That's
but
good.
still it was rough. So
Yeah, for sure.
but no, we didn't get any final numbers. I know the well itself was going to be pretty expensive, and I can't remember exactly why, but there's something with the permit to dig the well out there.
Okay.
But if we ever get numbers,
Right? I'm just curious what it would have even looked like for us if we would have even been able to do it. Because it was definitely another, yet again, unique situation.
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's kind of tough because those are like situations where you're not really just like buying a property. You're kind of like buying the land and then trying to build. And so there's a lot more moving pieces and a lot more that you have to juggle. And I know when you kind of get on when you don't have as much cash to throw into something like that, it can be a lot harder to manage. And I'm actually kind of glad that you guys didn't go that route, because it just gets hairy. And I don't know, I would have hated for you guys to end up in a bad spot, but I think it worked out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we never ended up putting the offer in on this 2.5 acre lot.
Nope.
And instead, I think it was that night or the night after, I had been trolling the market and I saw this weird little property that I didn't even think you guys would be interested in. I never mentioned it to you.
And then we sent it to
And then
you.
we found it.
And then you sent it to me at like 7:00 the next morning, and you're like, "Hey, I want to go see this."
Yeah.
And it was so funny when you sent it. I was like, "Oh my god!" It's like, that was the weirdest little house.
That was the start of the coincidences that kept happening.
Yes.
With our little group.
Yeah, the like weird timing.
It was just always strange timing. The minute we ask a question about something, you all of a sudden get the answer for it
Yeah,
back from someone.
yeah. I'd be like, "I don't know. Let me check on this." And then literally, as soon as we got off the phone or I sent a text, I would get an email, and it was almost to the second.
Yeah.
Like, and so same thing happened today when you guys asked me for an update, and I was like, "No, I'll find out." And then sure enough, I hang up, I open my email, and then it goes ding, and another one comes in, and it's that email.
Yeah. It was
I'm
like,
like,
literally,
what?
you're like, I don't know when exactly, but she said, as soon as possible. And then I think it was maybe 5 minutes at
Yeah.
max. And you were like, surprise.
Well, okay, so let's not tell that yet.
Yeah.
So we find this house, you found this house, we go and look at it, and this is like a super unique, it's like a cabin, kind of.
In
It
a
feels like a
way.
mountain
Almost,
property,
yeah.
So it's got some acreage. The guy that's selling this is like, we were talking about this while we were out there. He's like the man's man of
He's
manly
a dude.
men.
He's a dude.
Like, the guy is obviously like a hunter, a welder, like raises chickens, and like he's got everything. And I was just thinking about that 56 Chevy he had parked out there. And
Actually, I think I was doing some research on it. I think it might be a 65.
oh, really?
I think it might be a 65.
Okay.
I did a little bit of research on it, and I was looking at pictures back on Zillow and trying to like find the exact year, because I was just hyped about this truck.
Yeah. I need to find out if he'll leave it. I don't know.
I can only wish.
I know.
Yeah.
Apparently he doesn't want to take a whole lot, so we'll see. I know. Fingers crossed. But so we spent like an hour out there, maybe a little over an hour, kind of walking
Something like
around,
that,
checking
yeah.
the place out. And I know there's like the chicken coop and a bunch of outbuildings and everything, so we were walking around checking it out. You guys kind of fell in love with it pretty quickly.
I felt at home
Yeah.
the minute we walked into the house.
Yeah.
Just
It was comfortable.
it was comfortable. It was like it said on the description on Zillow. It had the Coloradan like kind of style to it. And
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Super chill. What were some of your favorite things about the place?
The shape. Honestly,
Really?
it's just it's not cookie cutter,
Unique.
which is nice, because we didn't really want a cookie cutter house.
Yeah.
And so that was like the biggest thing that stood out was the shape, because it is different. It's way different. I mean,
yeah.
you got your slanted walls, and then this one's straight. Like
The upstairs patio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing was cool.
That was
So this guy basically built like over the back porch, there's this stairway that goes up, and then there's this deck.
Mm-hmm.
And all it's missing is the railing and all of the safety features.
Yeah.
But but other than that, this deck is badass.
That's great.
So I remember his dogs that were running around hanging out with us. They were up there, and I kept thinking, like, if that one little wiry, crazy dog fell off this thing, I was like, this guy's never gonna like take our offer if we kill his
Right?
dog.
I know, because that dog was just so happy to see us. It's like, please don't fall. Please don't fall.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
So, what else did you like about it? Because it's so kooky. Like, when you walked in, tell me like what you saw.
The first thing I saw when we walked in was that antler chandelier that he had up on top. Instantly, I was like, this is going to be a great home.
This guy.
This guy is great. And just looking out front when we first pulled up, just all the just knickknacks and the like handmade stuff that he had out there.
Yeah.
Was just, you knew that this guy, if he did work on it himself, he probably did it pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty
Did good
accurately.
work.
I mean, he had a palette saying blacksmith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty cool. I think the first thing that I noticed was the smell.
Yeah, the smell of just like...
Because of the fireplace.
Yeah.
Because it's a wood-burning fireplace, and so you just
Yes.
had that smoky smell, and it's just comforting, really, because, I mean, his parents back home have a wood-burning fireplace, and so it's pretty comforting.
Yeah. Did it remind you of like the mountains, or did it just remind you of home?
Home in general.
Home,
Yeah. The mountains.
If you took that smell and mixed it with like fresh coffee from the kitchen,
Yeah.
just mix those smells, it smells just like home.
That would be a badass candle.
Yeah. Yeah, he wants coffee candles.
Like, you should be able to do that. Coffee and campfire candles. That should be a thing.
That would be really cool.
I know there are people out there that make sense, and they should get on that.
Oh, yeah, they would sell out real quick.
Yeah.
Can we do that as a cologne?
I bet you could.
Probably.
Great.
Yeah. Someone one year for Christmas, they bought me like a tobacco and something body wash. And I wasn't quite into the tobacco smell, but if it was like teak wood, like I would bathe in teak wood.
Yeah,
I love that stuff. I would smell like I was Abercrombie and Fitch. Just walking Abercrombie and Fitch. But so this house was pretty cool. Had character, super unique. You guys really liked it right off the bat. Smelled like home. And I think before we even left, you decided you wanted to write an offer on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you asked him, and he was like, yes. And
Absolutely.
you went home, wrote it up, we signed it, and we sent it off.
Yeah. This all happened in like an hour.
Yeah.
Super quick.
Yeah, we saw it, and we put in an offer a couple hours later.
So I think the house was on the market for like...
Not even a day, I don't think.
Was it not even a day?
Was it just over a day?
I think when we sent the offer in, it was the second day on market.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we saw it, it was like 23 hours.
Yeah.
That it was on market.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And okay, so in the realtor remarks on the MLS, it had said that the seller was traveling, and it said, please allow up to 72 hours for a response. And I thought that since the guy was just there when we got there, I thought he'd be able to respond pretty quickly, because I was like, he's not traveling.
Not yet, anyways.
Apparently he was headed to the airport. I don't know. So we write this offer and we send it in, and then we get told like he's traveling. Let's give him a little time. So what was it? A day or two?
I think it was 2 days.
2 days.
Maybe just shy of 2 days.
Okay.
I don't know. It all went by so quick.
I
It
mean,
did kind of. It was a
it all
whirlwind.
went by quick and then took forever.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh my God. Okay. And so he basically gets back to us and says that he's decided not to sell. Yeah. And we're like, excuse me. You put your house on the market. We gave you an offer for exactly what you're asking for.
Yeah, not
and then you
under
decided
nothing.
you're not going to sell? Like, what happened? And so we don't know exactly what happened on his end, but like you guys were pretty bummed, right?
More than Shadow Ridge.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like the minute we started, when we first met you up at Shadow Ridge, we started there, and then it was just like a steady build-up. Every place that we looked at was just like a build-up, and it just kept getting better. And then when this one dropped off, I was just heartbroken.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It just kept going up.
Yeah, because, I mean, you called me, and I was sitting at home. I was like, oh, God. When I answered, I was like, hi. What? And you're like, so. I was like, crap. And you told me, and so I called him, and he was just basically.
I was at work.
Yeah. I was like, I texted him. I was like, can you call really quick? Like, this isn't something I can sit with all day.
Oh, no.
And so he calls me, I pick up, I'm like, so he's not selling. And he just basically was just like, what?
I think that was all of our responses.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you're not selling? Your house is for sale.
Yeah, we were one of 2 showings and the only offer.
Yeah.
So it was just like, what happened?
Devastating.
And there was a couple hours there, or like an hour or two, between her telling me the bad news and then her telling me, but he's changed his mind. And
Now
those
he's
2
reconsidering.
hours.
So, and that, like, it was an emotional roller coaster on my side too, because I was like, okay, he's not selling. And I was like, and Alex, you had actually texted and you said, so what do we do now? Or where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh shit. Like, what do we do?
You're like, I don't even know at this point. Like,
And so the only thing I could think of was there's nothing on the market. Like you looked, I looked, we're all looking, there's nothing. And so I was like, we've got to find an off-market property. And so I just started calling people that I know, and I had one that I thought would be a killer property.
mm-hmm.
And I like started making calls on it, trying to see if this guy would be interested in selling. Turns out he could possibly be interested in selling if we found him the right house. So then my mission was, how do I find this guy the house so I can sell Alex and Kylie his house? And it was just one of those things where I was just trying to make it work. And then like, as I was ramping up on that, trying to figure out what I was going to do to help find something for you, I get another call that says, hey, he's reconsidering. And I'm like, reconsidering?
What does that mean?
Yeah. Like, okay, what exactly is reconsidering? And so I guess the guy was going to be out of town for a week. And so his answer to us is, well, if you can wait until I get back, then I will let you know what if I'm selling or not. So you guys have been sitting here like biting your nails for a week.
All week.
And then this morning we're texting and you ask if there's been an update. And I say, no, let me, find out. And right after we get off the phone, I get an email that says he has agreed to sign. Congratulations.
That was so like awesome. And he was outside taking the dog out. So when he came back, I'm like, did you see it? And he's like, yes. I'm like, we have it. And he's like, no.
Slow
Not
down.
yet.
Hold on.
Don't get your hopes up.
Not again.
I mean, and honestly, I'm going to cry if something happens after this. We're not even going to think about it, though.
Seriously, I know.
You know?
Yeah. I'm just keep manifesting. I'm like, it's going to be fine. We're going to get it.
Yes.
It's going to be fine.
Yes. And it's in such a good spot.
It really
Like,
is.
It is.
Shadow Ridge was far.
It was a decent drive. This one is a little bit closer, which is nice. And then we really don't have any back roads like Shadow Ridge would have.
It's all pretty much just weird eye contact. It's all pretty much just paved road.
Yeah.
And then you've got the actual road that you're on is gravel,
but it's not even
not
that bad because it's gravel. No. It's not dirt.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the cool thing is you're really right outside of town.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get into the store pretty quickly if you need to go to Walmart or the gas station or something. I think with Shadow Ridge, it would have been like a 15-minute minimum drive to anything.
If not more.
Really?
Yeah, I think down to Luther it was like 15, 20 minutes on its own.
Oh my God.
You wanted to get to
And
Edmond, I think it was
Luther.
30.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would that have done for your commutes if you were at Shadow Ridge?
I think yours was like 30 and mine was pushing 40.
Oh my gosh.
Like
yeah, because he works off of the interstate and then I work over off of 33rd and Broadway, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah, it would have been a drive. It's still going to be a drive, just not that bad.
Yeah. Are you guys, like, Kylie, are you going to look for a new place closer once you guys make the move, or?
I might. It just depends on how long I really want to do that drive.
Yeah.
And what is available for jobs.
Well, if people keep quitting at the rates they're quitting, there's going to be a
no
lot of
kidding.
jobs
Yeah.
available.
Wow.
I'm blown away at, like, what the unemployment's doing. I guess maybe it's not even unemployment because I think these people are going and getting other jobs or doing other things, but they're just like leaving work. Like the Loves, one of the Loves in town was closed for a couple days because they didn't have anyone to run one of the shifts.
Oh,
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. It's like, how can Loves close for like, it was like a Tuesday, Wednesday kind of thing.
Yeah, I was like, that's
that's
because
weird.
that's not just a puny little podunk gas station.
No.
It's like a
No.
major. It's right off the interstate. Like
Yeah.
everyone.
Well, this
uses
is the
it.
one in off Division in Guthrie, so it's kind
Okay.
of like the mini one. You know?
Okay.
But still,
I thought you were talking about the one like right off the interstate. I was like, ouch.
that would be crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine if those doors ever closed. There's a problem.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know the world's ending or something. Like
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
all offering, like, as people quit more and more, they're all offering like insane sign-on bonuses or like application bonuses even.
Really?
There's like buddy I work with told me about like McDonald's is offering like $500 just to like apply an interview. Like just
I'm
to
sorry?
apply an interview, it's just $500 or something like that. It was.
Is there a limit on the number of times you can apply?
I don't know.
Because I can type pretty quick. I can
Use
whip up a couple
different
applications.
names.
Yeah. My God. Well, so what's the plan for after you guys move? After you close on the house?
I mean, we've been talking about like a couple of modifications that we want to do. Because depending on when we close, how everything goes, we'll still have a decent amount of time before we'll probably move in because we don't want to pay too much to get out of our lease. And so we would have time to do some stuff to the house. We definitely want to give it a fresh paint job.
Yeah.
Like number one, that's for sure getting
Interior and exterior?
interior for sure. Not so sure on the exterior yet.
Exterior be more like just like a little touch up, just some paint, maybe seal in that deck, that patio that he built. But other than that, not too much on the exterior.
Yeah. The
I
big
think-
thing on the exterior that we have to know what it looks like is the shingles and things like that.
Yeah,
like
the
what?
roofing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that'll be good. It's something the home inspector is going to help you get a better grasp on. I mean, when they go through the house, they're going to, I won't say tear it apart, but I always use the analogy. It's like taking off the makeup. You know,
Yeah.
you kind of see like, okay, what does this thing actually look like? How does it function? How old are these pieces? And what's the real story? So it's home inspection's great. And actually, obviously the home inspection's always your decision. You can use whoever you want, but I've got a couple people that I'd love to recommend. They're local to Guthrie. They do a fantastic job. So they'll take care of you.
We'll take your recommendation because we don't know anybody.
So that's one of the things that I try and like always make sure that people understand. It's always their choice. Like you're driving the boat. I'm just here to help you navigate. But it's funny how often people will say like, no, we're just going to go with, whoever you choose. And it makes me think like, man, people, well, I don't know. I don't think the rules should change, but I think it should be more okay for an agent to say like, hey, I recommend you use this person. Because when we, like from my perspective, this guy does like all of the buy side transactions that I'm on. And so you kind of get used to working with him and you understand how he operates and you learn to trust him because you see him go through these houses and you see him, call things out that you didn't notice or whatever it is. And I think it just establishes like rapport and trust. And I think that's crucial when you're going through something that's costing you almost $200,000.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's not like we were taught any of this in school.
Yeah.
What to look for, what not to look for.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
Totally. Cool. Are you guys excited about getting through this and
Oh
getting
yeah.
in there?
Oh yeah.
I'm excited and terrified
Are
all
you?
at the same time because it's just like on top of spending almost $200,000 on this house. On top of that, it's a week long of torture waiting for an answer or whether or not he's actually gonna sell, if at all.
Yeah.
And it's just like the waiting game is just so scary.
It hurts. I know. And you're just sitting there like, from your perspective, I'm sure you're like, what's the holdup exactly? Like, what are you trying to decide? You listed your house for sale.
Yeah.
Thought the decision was made when you did that.
Yeah, and at one point I was like, I wish we could just like personally tell this guy, we want your house,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Just
And so the listing broker and I had even had a conversation because usually the buyers and sellers don't meet.
right.
And that's because most often we're going through like negotiations and sometimes it can get tense. And so we want to keep feelings and personal, viewpoints and everything out of it.
Mhm.
So we make it a point to keep the parties separate and neutral. That way we can negotiate for both parties as needed and not have anyone get screamed at or, hair pulled or whatever. But in this case, I think it's actually going to be good if we can arrange a meeting between you and the seller. Because I think from what I understand, from what the listing broker has communicated to me, I think he would feel good knowing like who is coming in, who's buying the house, and knowing that you're going to take care of it, not just tear it down and build a big modern farmhouse kind of thing.
Yeah, that he's leaving it in good hands because, I mean, you get attached to the houses you live in. I mean, and that
especially when you put work into them.
Yeah.
And he did.
Oh, yeah. You can tell
he
did. And so, I mean, yeah, it would be really cool if we can, because, I mean, he sounds like a pretty interesting guy anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So,
for sure.
I mean, just walking around the property, you can see how much personality. So you can only imagine the personality coming from the guy himself.
Did we ever find out what's going on with the random pieces of turf?
No.
Did we ever
I'm
find
pretty
that
sure
out?
that's where the caches of weapons are,
Maybe.
or maybe the money, or I don't know. But
That's why I want to talk to him.
So how many were there? Was it 3?
It's like 3 or 4 or something like that.
There were none in the back that we noticed in it.
They were all in the front.
There were 3 in the front.
It's a little curious that they were in the front because if they were caches of something, you'd think they'd be in the back.
Yeah.
So
it's weird.
basically, we were walking around, we noticed this, and if I remember correctly, they were at the base of a tree, one of them.
Most of them, yeah. I think at least 2 of the 3 were. I can't remember if the third one was because it was kind of in an
I think
awkward
there was
spot.
one closer to the fence almost.
Really?
Yeah.
And this was just like it was a piece of AstroTurf. I mean, it was nothing special.
Just random.
I mean, you even picked one up, and it really didn't look like there was anything to even be hidden under there.
Yeah, it's just bare dirt.
Yeah.
And actually, as I said, bare dirt, I wonder if he literally put down AstroTurf to cover the bare dirt.
Maybe.
random
Or
chunks
maybe
of
he
dirt.
was trying to grow. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe trying to grow something underneath it, or
But it wouldn't be getting daylight.
I don't know.
Maybe mold?
I hope not.
Experimenting with different species of mold.
Oh, God.
that's terrifying.
Just kidding.
Get the inspector in there. And it's just all sorts of mold in the walls. Whew.
All kinds of new spores that have been previously unidentified.
Yeah, no kidding. This is my way of keeping it. Well, you can't even live there now, so.
Well, we're going to know something happened or something was going on with those pieces of AstroTurf if you guys go to move in and they're gone and it looks like the spots have been dug up.
That would be
man.
Like,
Terrifying.
like, did he leave
Jeez.
anything?
I know, right? Oh, man. So I don't know why. This reminded me of this place in Florida. It's called St. Augustine. Are you familiar at all?
No.
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
Okay. If I remember correctly, it's the oldest settlement in all of America. And it was settled in like 1470 or what? No, maybe it wasn't 1470. 1510. I don't know. Roderick, can you look this up? But anyway, so it's St. Augustine, Florida. And we went down there. We were shooting a movie there. And it was a Western. But there's this fort. And this fort is super, super freaking cool. And since ours was a period film and it was set in, it was like, mid 1850s. It was like 1857 was what it was set in. Anyway, the idea is there's this Chickasaw rancher living in Oklahoma, and a bunch of Chickasaw get kind of rounded up by the U.S. Cavalry and basically shipped out to Florida to St. Augustine, and they're stuck in what is essentially a prison. And so anyway, we're using the fort for all of these shots, and the rangers that run the place are kind of showing us the cool stuff, like the behind the scenes stuff. And there's this one area that they take us to that's pitch black, and it's just a room. There's stone all around it. And then on the floor, just up, it's just small enough that you could fit in, or just big enough that you could fit in and like crawl through this wall. The wall was like 10 feet thick of stone. And you have to like almost army crawl through this thing, and you get out to the other side, and there's no windows. It's actually underwater. On the other side is water. And so you can see little bits of water coming down the stone on the inside, and the ground is a little moist because there's no sun. It's just damp ground. And had my phone flashlight, and I'm looking at the walls, and I see initials and years and tally mark or check marks, tallies and things like that. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And the guy tells me a story about how this was originally a munitions depot or like bunker or something. They would hide it. They basically dug this tunnel, and on one side was this like 6 or 10 feet of stone, this big wall, and on the other side was water. So it was like the safest place to store all of these explosives. So if anything ever detonated, it was damp and, surrounded by stone on one side, water on the other. Well, anyway, at one point there's an attack on the settlement, or on the whatever this thing's called. There's an attack on the fort, and the exterior wall of this munitions thing is damaged, and so water comes in. And anyway, after the battle, they ended up repairing it. They get it fixed, but they didn't want to use it for munition storage anymore, so they turned it into a solitary confinement cell. And I learned about this after I had been standing in there for like what seemed like 5 minutes, pitch black. And this is not a big room. I mean, it's fairly small, and you can see all the scratches with the initials and dates and everything, like I was saying. And you kind of, after you find out, like, okay, this was solitary confinement, it like really just racks your brain. I mean, because you're thinking like, holy shit, like hundreds of years ago, people were locked in this pitch black room. I mean, pitch black, not a single ounce of light. And they had to stay down here by themselves. And it's such an eerie feeling because the stone is so thick, and with the water being on the other side of the wall, there's no acoustics. It's cold, and it's dead silent. Whatever you say doesn't echo. It just disappears into nothingness. And I could not imagine being stuck in there.
We had the Yuma Territorial Prison, if you've ever heard of that.
No.
Who was it that did a segment on it? Ghost Adventures or something?
Yeah.
Because it was like haunted or something like that. But
it was Ghost Adventures with Zach Bagans.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a segment on it, and I had visited there once or twice, and
before
you were there once.
Once before I got there, and then we went with your family, and then I had taken my mom, but they had a similar setup for a solitary confinement.
It was built into just the side of was it just like a hill or a rock? It was built into a rock of some sort, and it was just called the Dark Room, or
I don't remember what it was
something
called.
like that. The Black Room, something like that. But you just open a door, and it's a long hallway into the center of this hill, and it's like a 10 by 10 room that's just stone and rock, and right in the center is this cage that's like 4 feet by like 3 feet. So like anytime anyone who goes in there is like hunched over, and they're chained to the center of the cage.
No.
And when you shut the door, it's complete darkness, like you were talking about with the other room. And it's just, you don't move. You just hunched over, and you're in there for days at a time. And so you're covered in your own feces. And you walk into that room now, and the smell is insane. You don't want to be in there very long. And you can hear the bats and everything in there. And it's just, like you were talking about, just eerie. And you just feel gross walking in there.
Screw that.
And I guess they used to have like an overhead little door, and they would like drop scorpions and snakes on top of you and stuff, and it was just this terrible room.
That's awful.
Yeah.
When was it built?
Oh man, that's a great question. But it was like a territorial prison back in first settlements in the West kind of thing.
Okay. It's old. Yeah.
They made a couple movies about it too, actually.
Really?
The 310 to Yuma.
Oh, 310 to Yuma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was all about transporting them to the prison, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen it, or I've seen the movie. I haven't. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have seen the title. I've never seen the movie.
Same.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I knew it was a movie, but and I mean there's still some like structures that were there when it was like the actual prison, but and then still across the way there's still the cemetery too.
Yeah, you can walk to the cemetery, and there's still the original.
You can walk
Really?
into the
Burials.
cemetery.
Guys, speaking of the cemetery,
Creepy.
did you see that creepy little cemetery on the way to Shadow Ridge?
Yes.
Yes.
That was just off to the side.
I
want to
go back there. That was so. It was this. I did not know it was there. It like randomly off the north side of the road. It couldn't have been more than like maybe 20 gravestones.
The more that we've been driving around trying to look at houses, I've realized how many random creepy cemeteries there are
really
here.
is.
More than
It's
you would think, huh?
Yeah, yeah, especially on those back roads. It's like the house, the closest house was like a mile away, and it was
Yeah.
like, why is this sitting here? That's really just off-putting.
There's one that I'm selling north of Guthrie right now, and directly across the street is a cemetery.
I could not do that.
Yeah, the guy's girlfriend was like making jokes about the ghost coming over, and he was like, "Shut the fuck up!" No, will ya?"
That's funny.
It's awful. But I want to go back to that one on the way to Shadow Ridge, and I want to go check it out because it looked old.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, there was no fence or anything around it.
No, it was just sitting there.
Yeah, and it was like, I mean, they looked like old headstones that were like falling apart, just sitting there on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I want to say there was one going up towards the one that we're trying to close on right now. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I saw a
Was
cemetery
there?
driving up there.
I
And it
wouldn't
was
be
like a
surprised.
off the road, like just a dirt road. You go back and there's like a cemetery.
When you
I
guys
don't know,
think
we've
about
seen
it,
too many.
I've seen a lot. Oh my god.
so I used to make a joke when we would drive back and forth from here to the Panhandle. When you're driving on the highways out there, there's a bunch of random signs that you just see on the side of the highways, and it'll say like cemetery this way,
Yeah.
cemetery this way.
Yeah, I think now that it was a sign like that we saw.
Yeah. I think there's two signs that were like cemetery this way, cemetery this way. And it's just
Why?
ugh. I don't like that.
No. Do you guys believe in ghosts?
I personally really
Yeah.
don't, but I'm not going to take any chances.
Kylie,
I'm not going to take any chances with that.
you were shaking your head. Yes.
Oh yeah, I do.
Have you ever had a ghost encounter?
No, not personally, but I mean, there's a lot of evidence out there. I mean, yeah, a lot of it can be debunked, but there's still a lot of evidence, and I've lived in enough like older places and smaller places to know, yeah, it's pretty true.
Yeah. So I was in the oldest brothel in America, which is in Butte, Montana. And I was shooting a post-apocalyptic zombie western with
Of course.
the Backstreet Boys and some of the guys from NSYNC and 98 Degrees and the lead singer from Everclear, Art Alexakis. There was like a bunch of random celebrity cameos, and it was one of the coolest things. But one of my favorite things was my sister growing up was obsessed with the Backstreet Boys. And so like I grew up seeing posters of them on my sister's wall, and she was like in love with AJ McLean. And it just so happened that we ended up hitting it off on the show and came to become friends and everything. And it was kind of cool. It was a great experience. So I met a lot of cool people that I never thought I would meet. But while we were there, we were shooting at the oldest brothel in the States. And it's in Butte, Montana. It was actually built twice because the original one was a single level, and up top it was a saloon. And then you would walk down these stone steps to the brothel. And the brothel was just this one kind of hallway. And then there were these stone rooms on both sides. I want to say there's 3 or 4 on each side. So it was either 6 or 8 rooms total. And they were completely built and formed out of stone, but they had these small windows with these little curtains, and the curtains were on the outside, so you could pull them back and look in. It was super creepy. But so that was the original brothel, and then it had been redone at some point. I think it burned down, and the woman that ran it rebuilt it, and it was a 2-story. And then when she rebuilt it, was super nice, and it is how it currently stands. So when you walk into this long hallway, and there's these beautiful wood paneled walls and doors, and there's just like a bunch of like 8x6 or whatever rooms. It's like big enough for a bed and a little nightstand, and that's it. But they line both sides, and then you look up and you can see up all the way to the ceiling. And there's these like this handrail that kind of runs around in an oval, and there's more rooms up there. But anyway, so we're shooting this like real dark scene with this zombie like prostitute, I guess, that is attacking one of our stars. And we're shooting it in the original brothel, so it's downstairs in these stone rooms. So we spent however long shooting it all, and when we were wrapping out, I was downstairs helping clean stuff up, get it all organized. And like I was saying, there's just those rooms, like 3 or 6 rooms on each side. And so a buddy of mine had been in one of the other rooms, wrapping up some cables, cleaning up lights and stuff. And then if I remember correctly, there was another person that was cleaning up like water bottles and stuff. And we had been joking about ghosts and everything. And I'll never forget, I was standing there, and I've got like a spool of cables in this hand, and I'm reeling it up, and I'm just folding up the cable. And I finish reeling this one cable up. I turn, and as I turn, I felt something. It felt like someone brushing by you. You know how you kind of feel like that on your shoulder, and you even turn a little bit. And so I feel that, and I just turned back because I thought it was my buddy, and no one's there. And so I peek my head out the door, and I called my buddy. His name's JB. I was like, "Hey, JB," and nothing. And I was like, "What the?" And so I go around the corner. They're not there anymore. They had gone upstairs, and it was just me down there.
I would have been done.
Dude, I hightailed it up those stairs so fucking fast.
Oh, yeah.
I was terrified. But then I started telling people what had happened. No one else would go down there, but they also all thought I was full of shit. And I was like, all right, listen.
You're like, if I am, you go down there.
Exactly. Yeah. But no one did. No. I think that someone went down and grabbed like the last couple spools of cables that were down there, and then no one else went down. I personally think that there was a spirit, and there's a history of articles written about this brothel. The woman that ran it was ruthless. And got to remember, Montana in the 1880s was the Wild West. Right. And they would have all these issues with men coming in, cowboys and people traveling and whatever. They'd come to the brothel, and they would, ask for these services, and then they would try and basically hold up the women, not pay them, and at gunpoint say like, "I'm leaving." And so this lady was a badass. She would come in and shoot him, and she would just shoot him dead in the room. And so I think she had killed like 60 guys.
Wow.
And they tried her. If I remember correctly, she ended up getting hung or something, or maybe she was shot. But because she shot so many guys there's all these stories about the place being haunted. And I'm 99% sure that I was touched by a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. Back in Yuma again, there's also the Lutz Casino.
I hate.
And I mean, most of it's closed off, and we never ate at the restaurant that is still open that's connected to it. But it had the theater right there, and there's stories with that too. We don't know as much on that one as we do as the territorial, because you can actually explore the territorial prison. And not Lutz, because it's just locked up closed. But like every time you would
Don't you think that's scarier?
Yeah, every time we would walk by it, because like it's in downtown. There's not much of a downtown Yuma, because Yuma is really not much of anything.
But it's a lot of
anyways.
old buildings too, like
Yeah.
Wild West buildings
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are still
But
out there.
Every time you walk
And
by, it was eerie on its own. And again, they did an episode on that one too. And but with the Lutz Casino, there's plenty of people who've left with scratch marks, like from eating at the restaurant that's open right next to it.
Really?
Yeah, like they've left with scratch marks.
Yeah,
They've been touched.
Right above the restaurant is, I think, like a hotel that hasn't been used in forever.
Yeah.
It's an old abandoned hotel above the restaurant, and then to the side of the restaurant's an old abandoned theater.
Okay.
So it's just all sorts of creepy, and then a restaurant.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is really cool. We should have eaten there before we left, but we never really got the chance to. Because, military life doesn't really leave you with a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And the downtime you did was errands. But yeah, just walking by it was eerie on its own. You didn't even have to like walk in there to feel it.
Have you guys heard any of the stories about downtown Guthrie?
I've heard it. I've heard like a couple, but not a whole lot. No.
So one of the things my wife and I want to do is they do this haunted walk.
Oh yeah.
We heard about that. Actually,
I want to do that so bad.
So do we. Yeah.
So my wife's obsessed with it. She's got this book. I think it's called Haunted Guthrie. And it's basically all the ghost stories of Guthrie. I really need to read it. But I always like tell stories and I reference the book, but I've never read the book. So I'm like, oh yeah, here's a book that has great stories. I know none of them. But there's a story about the Bluebell, which is a restaurant over here, and it's closed right now. They've opened it a couple times, and I don't think it's ever stayed open for more than like a couple months at a time. For one reason or another, it always gets shut down. But there's stories about the same thing. There's a brothel upstairs and a bar downstairs, and these guys would get rowdy coming in. They'd come in, be drinking at the saloon, and they'd fire off their guns into the ceiling, not thinking about the people that were upstairs. And so there were so many people that would get shot in the leg, or they'd pick one up in their arm or something, and sometimes it would even kill them.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of ghost stories there. Again, I don't know all the specifics because I didn't read the book, but that's what happens when you don't do your homework, kids. But no, there's a ton of cool ghost stories in Guthrie. I know with the haunted walk, they go by the Apothecary Garden, and supposedly there's another ghost story of something that happens over there. I'm really embarrassed I don't know this.
Speaking of ghost stories that you don't know a whole lot, our high school, 1954 or something like that, was when it was built. And there's a mortuary across the street. And there's tunnels connecting the two because I guess it was rumored. I don't know if it was like a rumor, like fact, but used as a bomb shelter and between the two places or something of that kind.
Something like that. Yeah.
And so there's tunnels. So like if you can go into like a part of the high school and actually go down and see, like it's gated off. But there were rumors of like the locks just randomly being unlocked for that. There's an old classroom that was closed off because apparently like a couple teachers went crazy in there.
There's supposedly a room behind some of the lockers.
Really?
It used to be like an old art room or
I
something
don't know
like
what
that.
it was used for, but yeah.
And they like closed the room in?
They closed it off.
Apparently, if you
there.
look back there, you can still see some of the doorway that's above the lockers.
Really?
They did a haunted tours or whatever for a couple years, and I think the first year it was kind of crappy. I mean, the theater kids put it on, so it was like bare minimum type deal. But it was
you guys are so lucky my wife's not here right now. She's one of those theater kids.
It was. I mean, but it was like very budgeted, so it was bare minimum.
They do the best with what they have.
Exactly, and I mean,
it wasn't bad.
It was still cool, but like you can see that there was a doorway there. It's closed off.
So do they know why though that it was closed off?
Just that I think the teachers like went crazy for whoever knows why.
That's crazy.
And then I don't know. There were a lot of different ones. There was another one about a kid getting locked in a room somewhere, and so sometimes you'll hear like a bouncing ball because that was like his toy. There's another story.
That freaks me out.
There was
the little kids.
What is it about little kids?
I hate it.
It's so spooky.
Yeah.
And little like the music box sound.
Yeah.
Or nursery
Fuck
rhymes.
me. I hate that. When I'm watching a horror movie and I start hearing nursery rhymes too.
Nursery.
But for me, man, that music box, I hear that and I'm like,
I'm done.
I just kind of close my eyes, like,
Yeah.
peek out a little bit.
Yeah. And there was another one, a little girl like fell off of like railing in the gym or something like that. But yeah, there was a rumor of like an underground lake at one point, and I don't know. There was a lot of different ones. Like, we don't have our yearbooks, but they even had a little page in one of the yearbooks like dedicated to the stories.
Really?
Just a
How
few
cool
of
is
them,
that?
but yeah. So it's got some history in its own.
For me, boot camp had so many horror stories.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, I
so many
bet.
ghost stories that they would always try to like spread around the barracks.
Were
to try
any
and,
of
like,
them
scare us.
even semi-legit?
A lot of them sounded pretty legit.
Really?
So
Like what?
I don't know how recent, but years before I actually went to boot camp, they started putting up like very high railings, like cover the whole area, because boot camp, the barracks were just like one level was one platoon, and then next level was the next platoon, and it was like 4 stories, I think, 3 or 4 stories. And they started putting up like whole wall railing because it used to be just like waist high railing, so you'd go up the stairs and you could like look out the balcony. And they started putting up whole like railings because people would just start getting depressed at boot camp, or they'd get like super like homesick and they'd just jump off.
Really?
And they would just commit suicide all the time.
Really?
Or like they'd be pushed too far, then like with the drill instructors would push them too far or
I
something.
thought they had laws against that now. Or is this like a while back?
This was like beginning of Iraq War and all this other stuff.
Okay.
When there were no limits.
Yeah.
Like 9/11 era.
No, like you wanted to push them to the breaking point.
You want to make sure that they're ready for some serious shit.
Yeah.
And so, like, people were getting driven too far or something like that, and they would just jump off. Or there's stories of them just dying in their beds. Like, they'd get a hold of something sharp, cut the wrist, die in bed.
Oh my God.
Like,
how many people died? Do you know?
that's
It's
a
like
good question.
Untold numbers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God.
It was. They would constantly tell us these stories about things, and then when you take a trip up to like an hour north to Camp Pendleton, where you do like the next couple segments of training up there, and you come back down for graduation. And there are even more stories up there because that's where you'll go through your training to learn how to shoot on the range, how to qual, and all these other things. And you actually get the original qualification for rifle up at that range. And there's just horror stories coming from up there, like recruits would go into the bathrooms with the rifle, shoot themselves because they'll somehow smuggle like a round off the range, and all these other like crazy stories. And I'm like, this is not okay. So you try to go to sleep sometimes, and you're like this, you hear like a little sound in the middle of the night. And
Oh no.
like, oh. And
Was boot camp as bad as some people will make it out to be?
see, some people like have, it just depends on the person. Like some people have like a really, really hard time with boot camp, and some people have like almost have like a blast.
Really?
Like you go into it with like an expectation of it being hard. And so when it is hard, you are in a sense kind of happy because you're like, okay, like I'm getting pushed, like I'm getting challenged here. And some people go in with the mindset of, I don't want it to be hard. And so they're disappointed when it is.
And then you have the people who are like sick and twisted.
Yeah.
Like some of the people I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they were, some of these guys were nuts.
Like they wanted the pain.
Yeah, like they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like they wanted to be hurt.
That's
kind of
weird.
thing. Or like they were excited to go to war, and they like wanted to see the. I mean,
I
in a
kind
sense,
of get
I kind
that.
of wanted to.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, right? To want to go to war.
Yeah, like you go into boot camp and you're kind of like conditioned to like want that.
Yeah.
You like want to kill. You want to be in a firefight. You want to get. You want to run over an IED. You want to get blown up. You know, like there's people that are like nuts.
Especially the Marine Corps. I feel like you guys are even worse about that.
We're like,
Oh yeah.
we're conditioned to want that because then when it comes, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. It's that warrior mentality.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Sparta. I mean, if you can go and serve your country and die in battle, you know, that's the ultimate.
You are number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get that. My dad's a Marine, and he's like completely different than how I think he was when he was in the Marine Corps. But he's worked for NASA for 35 years. He's a freaking nerd.
Jeez.
Yeah. But when I remember for the longest time he had his whatever you call it, his dress wear, like
Dress
his formals.
blues.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even when I was a kid, and I mean a kid, I was like probably 12, I would try and like put these on, and like I couldn't even fit in them because he was just like lean and fit, and he would tell me every day he would run 6 miles in the morning, and that was just his thing. He was an ace shot, and you know, like all this stuff, and he's got tattoos on his forearms. One is of it's the Grim Reaper, and the other is what's that? It's like that zombie monster thing from Iron Maiden, Eddie.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah, so he's got like a Grim Reaper with a scythe on one hand, and then he's got this Eddie like demon looking thing on the other.
So he was like the metalhead.
Yes.
Like classic metalhead.
Yeah.
Marine. Okay.
Exactly.
There's still a lot of those guys.
Are there?
Just not to the extent that your dad would be. Like your dad is that era of Marine. It's just its own creature.
Very, very accurate.
Their own breed.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I remember as a kid, we would go to places like county fair or whatever, and inevitably he would end up somehow finding someone else that was a Marine, and they would spend the entire day sitting and talking. And I would like come back and, you know, like check in with my dad, and he would still be at this guy's tent talking about the, you know, I shouldn't do the dance because like I do respect it. But like talking about the war. No,
yeah, they kind of gravitate to each other. It's like
it's a camaraderie. It's you've all been through the same thing. Well, similar things.
Yeah,
you've all been through boot camp. You've all been through the same training. You all have a relation to each other. Like if I were to sit down with your dad, we've been through completely different boot camps, completely different eras of Marine Corps.
But I bet you guys could still hit it off.
We would still have that connection of just like we've both held that title.
Yeah. We
both still hold that title.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I said my dad was a Marine, and he was like, buddy.
He's like, it's
M is, was, always will be.
Yeah. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
Yep. That mindset always stays there.
Yeah.
I can see it every day. So I know.
Do you salute in your sleep?
No.
Thank God.
It's not that bad.
Absolutely not. No, but there's this one shithead at work who will he's an Air Force guy.
Oh.
He was on a similar program of him doing his skill bridge, his internship, and so he's working there as well. And he'll constantly like make fun of me and stuff like that for being a Marine versus, you know, Air Force. And he'll like randomly like walk around, he'll like salute me, and then I'll just like shake my head. But we have a running joke now because he did it walking backwards once and then tripped and fell over a pallet.
Oh, that's so Air Force.
But it was I was so impressed. I had so much respect for him because he held the salute all the way down.
Did he?
He flat out
didn't
just
let it go.
Smacked his head on the concrete, holding the salute.
Oh my God.
Holding the salute, like, oh my God.
Man, like You should have saluted him back.
I should have. That was I was impressed.
Yeah, that is impressive. Would you ever go back in if you had to?
If I had to, yeah, yeah. If I had to, I would go back in. That's like the main reason I got out was just like there wasn't a huge purpose in it at the moment.
Peacetime.
It's peacetime Marine Corps, a lot of garrison life.
Yeah.
It just I didn't feel like I was doing what I was supposed to, kind of thing. Like,
what do you feel like you're supposed to do?
well, when you go into the Marine Corps, you feel like, you go in there for a purpose, and I wasn't really fulfilling that purpose. Of
Okay.
just, like, there was a purpose of supporting, the aircraft and the airfield. And there's a purpose of, fixing and maintaining the equipment and staying prepared for anything.
Yeah.
Always being ready. But it just wasn't, the fulfillment just wasn't there as like when I first joined. Because I was like, yeah, like I'm going to go do stuff. I'm gonna learn all this cool stuff. I'm going to go do cool stuff.
And that just wasn't
just
happening.
Wasn't really happening. Because it's just, we're not really doing much right now, so...
So what do you want to do long term now that you're out? Like, do you have like sort of an ideal that you're working toward, or what's your end game?
I mean, I was a technician for the all the Humvees and the 7 tons and all that.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, and honestly, I always enjoyed that portion of it.
So would you like to take that skill set that you developed in the Marine Corps and just continue to implement those skills in civilian life?
Yeah. I mean, that's what more or less I've been doing.
Yeah.
Just keeping up, being a technician, learning more and more. I want to learn more levels of equipment because right now I'm working with a lot of carbureted small engines, mowers, lawn and garden equipment.
It's not the big stuff that he got used to.
Yeah, and it made it really nice because it's not big, huge, diesel engines. It's these small, compact little things. It's complete, almost 180.
Yeah.
He's very detail-oriented and likes working with his hands. So he really enjoys the mowers, even though sometimes I think he does get a little bored because sometimes it is.
I got a lot of crap at first from the guys I was stationed with. Because they're like, oh, yeah, you went from working on, $1 million pieces of equipment to these little lawnmowers. And it's like, I don't care. It's honestly pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's all so small, and that if you fuck up one little piece, the whole thing is...
Yeah, especially with the little tiny carburetors.
Yeah.
You get like 1 grain of sand in there, and the whole thing just runs like crap.
So if you had your choice, would you be working on tractors, or would you like to stay with the smaller equipment?
I thought I would enjoy tractors more, and I didn't really get a whole lot of experience with them during the internship. But
man, I'll tell you what, when I was farming, I mean, we would have breakdowns all the time, and we'd call John Deere out, and these guys would come out, and it was like they had, like, I don't know, the book of the dead. Like, they had skills that, I mean, and we're handy, like, we can fix things. But these guys would come out and they would jump up in the cab, do some magic taps on the touchscreen to like buttons that weren't even actually buttons. And they would get this like menu, like a private menu that comes up, and they can make the suspension, do all kinds of crazy stuff to get it in the right position so they can get in and work on it. And these were like $250,000 tractors.
oh yeah,
And I'm like, what the hell did you just do, man? And I mean, it's wild watching those guys work on that equipment. And I always thought it was the coolest thing.
we had a technician who just retired recently. He had been working on mowers and with agricultural equipment with John Deere for like 40-something years, and he just knew everything. Like, you bring a bolt to him and ask him, like, hey, like, do you know where this bolt goes? And he'd be like, oh, yeah, it's, for so-and-so, like, this part, like, precisely.
Yeah.
And I'd come up to him like, hey, do you know what this goes to? And he's like, no, that doesn't go on anymore, I've seen. And sure enough, it's just something I picked up off the ground. And he just knows like all the in and outs, all the tricks.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when you said that, it reminded me of this guy one time. I needed to get a wing nut for the radiator cover for a John Deere combine. And so I had the wing nut, and at some point I lost it, and I still needed the replacement. So I'd gone to John Deere, and I was talking to the tech, and I told him, without even getting on the computer, he goes back and he comes out with 2 packages, and there's one wing nut in each. And he said, "Which one is it?" And I was like, "Actually, I think it's that one." And he's like, "Yep, all right." I was like, "Okay."
I mean, some of the parts guys I work with are insane. They have like exact part numbers memorized.
It's like,
Of like for blades,
yeah,
for fuel filters, for air filters, and on specific mowers too. You just walk up to them, "Hey, I need a air filter for this," and they'll be like, "All right, cool." Just send out a whole parts number.
Man, you should do like a TikTok and ask them like, "All right, hey, I'm going to quiz you on filters," and you throw out like a model number of a mower, and they have to give you the name of the filter or something.
I probably could though, which is awesome.
Yeah,
I wish I could do that.
I love that. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was nice to chat with you guys and fun to get to know you some more. And I know we're still like right on the edge of this offer. And so we've got like, I guess, a tentative acceptance, but I'm going to be super excited to get something back in writing. And actually, I should probably wait, before we stop this, we're just going to look.
And see what we've got going on.
Oh, nope. Nothing yet.
Dang it.
All right.
That's right. As soon as you leave, I'll get it.
Right.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
We'll
Yeah.
leave. I'll send you a text, and right there you'll get the email.
Exactly. Cool. Well, guys, thanks again. I really appreciate it. It's nice of you guys to come over and hang out and share some of your lives with us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
See ya.